It's very rare these days to find secular entertainment depict Christianity in a way that upholds biblical sexuality as well as depict sin and repentance. Even Ned Flanders is no longer a satirical stereotype of evangelicals. History Channel's Knightfall wrestles with Christian themes while also creating an action packed mystery with production value a league or two ahead of the bloated CGI manure piles that pass for feature films this day. Spoiler alert. The first season of Knightfall takes place 15 years after losing the siege of Acre 1291 and what they thought was the Holy Grail. The show begins with the death of the Temple Master of Paris, which leads the protagonist, Landry, on a quest to uncover the mystery that leads to the location of the real Holy Grail. But Landry is no hero. In fact, having lost his faith after the siege, he descended into an adulterous affair with Queen Joan, all while being good friends with a king whom he is cuckolding. It's worth emphasizing that the Knights Templar is a monastic order, so our unworthy hero Landry has a renewed purpose in life which contradicts his sinful behavior. Meanwhile, the seeds of his treachery have consequences. This ultimately leads Landry to alienate much of the Templar Order, including Gawain, his best friend, who departs the Order to work with de Nogare, the Iago-like figure advising the king. The first season ends with a great battle and Landry's final descent into darkness. While the first season is about the fall, season 2 was about the repentance. Having betrayed the Templars, Landry must atone, working hard to earn back his standing with the Order. It's rare to see the atonement part of a story be so gritty, every bit of progress feeling earned to the viewer. But alas, King Philip has a vendetta against the Templars, and he will have them destroyed. Landry is then forced to confront Gawain, who's leading the charge against the Templars. But after defeating the Templars, Gawain is unable to reconcile working for an evil king and is imprisoned with the Templars. Episode 7 was the best episode in the series by far, featuring several character moments. With Landry and the Templars imprisoned with their betrayer Gawain, in facing death, they choose to forgive him, reciting the Lord's Prayer. The episode ends with a fire pitching as the main heroes begin to burn at the stake. Episode 7 should have featured 5 more minutes where Landry and the others burn to death. Episode 8 should not have been made. Instead, Episode 8 was made and the heroes escape death. The story is fiction, but uses real-life characters such as King Philip IV, known as the Fair, de Nogare, Pope Boniface, while the Templar characters are inspired by actual Templar knights, Landry not being a real figure. That being said, we should not judge the historical fiction according to actual historical events. Rather, we should judge this period piece on the realism within the confines of the time period the story takes place. The escape coincidentally timed, without foreshadow, and wholly dependent on the mistakes of the villains was just some bad television. I dreaded watching this cliche turn of events. The overall ending of the season was garbage. The boss fight at the end featured a student-master dynamic that Knightfall established as evenly matched in Season 1 was so one-sided despite Landry being wounded, exhausted, and magically appearing in the place he had no business being in. This is garbage storytelling. A better ending would be starting the next season with new protagonists who take revenge on the king and the pope, who, according to legend, were summoned in a tribunal before God by the late Templar Grand Master because both died a year or so after Friday the 13th, 1307, the event which Season 2 depicts. That would be daring and good storytelling. But instead of doing what I would have done, Knightfall has little to move forward to, other than killing off King Louis X, moving on to Philip V, and then Charles IV. And while the events take place prior to the Hundred Years' War, as alluded to in Season 1 with the marriage of Isabella to Edward II. There is very little foreseeable plot for Landry and the surviving Templars to cross paths with the King of France. So either way, replacing one set of characters was inevitable, so they should have gone with a more realistic path. History Channel has not come out with a Season 3, likely because they wrote themselves off of a cliff. I am thirsty for entertainment, wanting to produce high-quality content, sparing me from feminist and intersectional BS. The show has 90% accomplished this. It's incredibly rare to see a show depict people wrestling with faith, forgiveness, and repentance. It's even rarer for those concepts to be wrestled with in storytelling in an overtly Christian way. While History Channel is not a Christian organization, they tell a gritty story that did not get bogged down by intersectional politics. Unfortunately, this show is undermined by television's tendencies to maintain normalcy at the expense of risky storytelling. Knightfall is an instance of good that could have been great, and this is my greatest grievance with the show. With all this said, I would recommend watching, especially if you are into medieval fiction.